Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about this very handsome SUGESS mechanical chronograph that I got a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to talk about all the stats and specifications and the reason why I decided to buy this particular watch. First of all, where to buy this watch. I bought this watch on Aliexpress for a relatively good price. I paid 140-ish euro for it, which is a very good price in my opinion, especially if you consider the specs of the watch. We will go over these later. And if you're looking to pick this one up for yourself, I will leave some links in the description down below, so feel free to check them out. Keep in mind that there are multiple options when it comes to this style of watch. You can choose between the 38mm model and the 40mm model. The 38mm model comes in 3 different color variants, one with a black dial, one with a creamy or ivory dial, and one with a white dial. That's the one that I went for. Also, you can find very similar looking mechanical chronographs on AliExpress, the most popular being the Seagull 1963, which is a more vintage and military styled. Seagull also offers a Panda chronograph, but it only comes in at 40mm, and for me it was important that the chronograph had the 38mm diameter. There is also the Pierre Laudin, but just as the Seagull Panda, this one only comes in at the 40mm case diameter. All of these have the same movement ticking in the back, so the differences between all of these are mainly the case diameter, the name of the brand, the handset that is used, and the price. So do your research and choose the one that appeals the most to you. As mentioned before, this watch is advertised with a case diameter of 38mm, which is a bit on the smaller side, but I think that the pushers and the long lugs make this watch wear slightly bigger than it might seem. And that's also the reason why I wanted to get the 38mm variant so badly, because I had the feeling that the 40mm might look a little bit out of proportion. That said, my calipers measure a bit less than 38mm. I get 37.4 when I measure it from the 12 to the 6. If I measure from 3 to 9 and include the crown, it's exactly 40mm. The lug-to-lug distance is 47.5. which is quite long for this small case diameter. The lugs do curve down though, so the watch will wear very comfortably on most wrists. The height of the watch is 13mm with the domed sapphire crystal included. Without the crystal, we're looking at around 11mm, so it's not as thick as I imagined it to be. The 13mm do hide themselves really well. The reason for that is the relatively thin mid case. And last but not least, the lug width is 18mm, which is a minor gripe for me. I just think it's hard to find decent 18mm straps. If you guys have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments down below. With all the dimensions out of the way, here's how the watch looks like on my 7-inch wrist. I think it looks and feels great. I am used to wearing bigger watches though, ranging from 39 to 44mm, so in the beginning it took me quite some time to get used to it. But this watch has a bit of a dressy and vintage feel to it, so the 38mm are quite fitting in my opinion. So if you have a similar or a smaller sized wrist than me, this watch will fit you like a charm. If your wrists are bigger, I'd recommend the 40mm option. Let's get a closer look at the front of the watch. Protecting the dial is a very nicely domed sapphire crystal. I couldn't find any info if there's any AR coating present, but it doesn't seem like it. Still, this watch is very legible in most situations. This particular version has stick markers everywhere except the 12 and the 6 o'clock, where you can find the numbers applied there. Just a quick info, on some product photos of this particular watch, the small 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock indices are not present, but on my watch they are. I don't know if they used to come without the small markers there in the past, but honestly I prefer it the way it is. Another reason why I chose this SUGESS is the handset that they use. The minute and the hour hands are pretty basic, but the seconds hand features a red tip and a lumed star on the balance tip. I think the splash of red goes really well with the watch, and most other mechanical chronographs have different handsets. We have a tachymeter printed on the outer edge of the dial, also with a splash of red lettering on top. The two subdials have two different functions. The left subdial is the seconds hand ticking away, and on the right subdial you can measure the elapsed time. The maximum amount of time you can track is 30 minutes. To operate the chronograph, you just push the upper pusher and the chronograph hand starts ticking. If you press it again, it will stop. If you press the bottom pusher, it will reset. So it's pretty simple and self-explanatory. And the best part is, you can watch it all happen. Once the watch is turned around, the very nice ST19001 movement is displayed through the mineral glass. Here you can watch the movement doing its thing. It's really fascinating, and I constantly stare at the balance wheel spinning or the pushers being activated. When it comes to accuracy, these movements can be a hit or miss. In my case it's a hit because my watch is running at -2 seconds a day. But I've heard that other people got quite unlucky with these ST movements. They got like +25, +35 seconds a day. So just keep that in mind when you buy this watch. The crown is located at the 3 o'clock position. It is not a screw-down crown, but a push-pull crown. So to operate the movement, you just turn it upwards to hand wind the movement. If you pull the crown, you can set the correct time. Keep in mind that the seconds hand will not stop while you do that, so it's a non-hacking movement. The lume on this watch is rather weak, but then again you probably don't buy this watch for the lume. Still, a nice detail here is the fact that the balance tip of the chronograph hand is lumed as well. In order for you to get a better understanding on how big this watch actually is, I wanted to compare it to some of my other pieces. Here it is next to the Steinhardt OVM 39mm. And here it is next to the Zelos Horizons GMT, which has also a case diameter of 39mm. As you can maybe tell, I swapped out the strap that came with this watch. It was not a bad strap, but with this dial collar you can basically match every kind of strap. So here I have it on this black rally strap. I also put it on this mesh bracelet, which goes very well with the watch in my opinion. And here it is on the light brown leather strap. I will put a link in the description on where to find these in case you're interested. So after owning this watch for around 3 weeks or so, I am quite pleasantly surprised by the amount of watch that you get here. This is a watch that looks way more expensive than it is. There's a lot that I like about it, and there aren't many things that I dislike. The only thing that I could criticize is the 18mm lug width and the rather weak lume. But both of these points are not really deal breakers for me. Speaking of deal breakers, when I bought this watch I did a lot of research as always, and I want to share with you the reasons why I chose this watch over all the other possible candidates. I really wanted to add a Panda chronograph to my collection, and I believe that many watch collectors will end up at this point as well, so I think I'm not the only one. There are a ton of manufacturers from different brands that I considered buying. I was strongly considering the Alpha chronograph for a really long time, but the thing that put me off was the case thickness of 16mm. Two other watches that I also considered were the Yema Quartz Rallygraph and the Nezumi Voyager. Both of these are vintage inspired racing chronos. The Yema didn't make it because the fact that it didn't have a running seconds hand, and that was a kind of a deal breaker for me. It does have a nice bezel though and a date window, but ultimately it didn't make the cut. The Nezumi was another watch that I was quite intrigued with. I almost pulled the trigger on that one, but the fact that the price was quite high made me have second thoughts. The Nezumi comes in at €372, which is almost triple the price of this SUGESS. So even though I think it's a beautiful and cool watch, I ultimately didn't buy it. But who knows, maybe I'll pick one up in the future sometime. There are many different brands that I considered as well. I was thinking about putting together a list video, just like I did with the best affordable divers, where I'll feature cool looking affordable chronographs. If you guys interested in this kind of stuff, please let me know and I will make it happen. Anyways, I think this watch is stunning. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comment section down below. This marks the end of the video. Thank you all for watching and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers.